What is up? This is the 9th episode of the LaxFactor Lacrosse podcast. College lacrosse is almost upon us. Vermont's going to travel out west to play first-year program Utah at 6 o'clock Eastern this Friday. The game's supposedly going to stream on the Pac-12 Network's website. I'll have a link in the description so you can check that out. Today, I just want to kind of rip through the game, rip through a little bit about each team, my outlook for a final score, and all that stuff. So let's go. So a lot of the talking heads are really high on Vermont, and I'm a little bit more skeptical. You lose a player like Ian MacKay, 59 points last year. They do bring back a lot of guys, but Ian MacKay was a hell of a player. He is now a pro lacrosse player. The guy's getting paid to play. Even if it's not a whole lot, he's still getting paid to play. So you lose a guy like that. I'm just not sure they have another player on the roster that can replace that production. You got to assume that a player like him drew a lot of heads last year, which opened up offensive opportunities for a lot of other players. They do boast 4 guys coming back with 30 points or more, and then another guy with 28 points. So that's pretty good production that's coming back. So they're going to have a lot of upperclassmen that put some of those points up, and a couple of them were younger guys. So offensively, they're going to be decent. I'm just not sure they're the team that won 12 games. I think that was what they won, 12 games last year. I'm just not sure offensively they're the same team without Ian MacKay on the roster. So a bright spot. They do bring back one of the best goalies in the country, Nick Washita. He had a 60.9% save percentage last year. If I butchered his name, I'm sorry. It's tough to go. I have a couple of games that I hadn't looked at the footage yet to get that pronunciation correct completely. So, Nick, I'm sorry if I butchered that, but hey, he's a hell of a goalie, and he is returning. The only problem is they also lost 3 to 5 starters on defense. They lost both of their LSMs, I believe. They lost a close defender. They lost a D midfielder, short stick D midfielder. So they lost their best player, Ian MacKay, on the offensive side of the ball. They bring an incredible goalie back, but they also lose a bunch of starters and contributors on the defensive side of the ball. So that's enough to make me question, how are these guys going to end up? Why are people sure, or why do people feel really good that these guys are going to finish in the top 20 and get back to that 11 or 12 win plateau? There's enough question marks that make me say, So Vermont, in the end, they return talent on offense. We got a bunch of guys coming back that can score the rock. I'm just not sure they're as good as they were last year without having Ian MacKay back. On defense, they return a hell of a goalie. They return a wealth of talent that all played last year and contributed heavily to last year's team, so that's excellent also. But once again, you lose a bunch of starters and contributors. Are you the same team on defense that you were last year? Which my guess is no. But they could be. Defensively, they could be. So you combine those two things, and I think that's enough cause for concern. I don't think they're going to finish below 500. I think they're going to be above 500 team. I put them in the area. I think that they'll end up with 9-10 wins. I'm just not sure they're going to be that team out of the America East that ends up with 11 and 12 wins, because I think that they'll probably drop a couple of non-conference games, and then in conference, who knows how it's going to go in the America East. So cause for concern, but Vermont is still going to be a hell of a team, and if that defense can overachieve, and if someone can fill the shoes that MacKay left sitting in the middle of the field, empty, untied, then I think that Vermont could potentially be as good as everyone thinks. I'm just not convinced. So Utah, first-year program, they've got a boatload of freshmen on the roster, but the guy I am insanely excited about is Jimmy Perkins. He's a transfer out of Robert Morris, had 2 seasons that he was injured at Robert Morris that he didn't play, so I believe he has 2 years of eligibility left. If I'm wrong, pop that in the comments so people can see. He puts up 31 goals and 30 assists last year. So I'm thinking this kid's probably going to be the best player on the field Friday. I wouldn't doubt that at all. He's a hell of an attackman. They do have a lot of freshmen hanging out to complement him. So, in that way, they don't have the same level of talent that Robert Morris did surrounding him last year. But we'll get to that. They do have a ridiculous attackman coming in from Onondaga. But moral of the story, Perkins is a ridiculously good player. So I think having him on the team puts Utah in a position where they're a little bit better than your run-of-the-mill first-year program, because this kid's a top-tier talent, and he's going to fill it up this year for the Utes. The guy on attack that's going to be of most use to Perkins is going to be James Sexton. He transferred in out of Onondaga, the former plague of my existence. Two-time NJCAA All-American. He led the nation in assists in 2018 with 49 and was third nationally in points with 83. So the kid can light it up, and he should have no problems helping Perkins put some points up on attack and keep a lot of the Utes' early games respectable. So James Sexton, that's a name to watch, because this kid, I say that Perkins may be the best player on the field, but it's very possible that Sexton's not too far behind, and he could potentially end up being Utah's breakout player, because if you know anything about Onondaga, you know that if you've been a two-time All-American there, you are a legit-ass baller. So Sexton, remember that name. Watch him this year for Utah. In the end, it's a hard game to call, because you're dealing with a first-year program, but you're dealing with a first-year program that has a couple really solid attackmen. They have a couple of goalies that have Division I street cred. I believe one of their goalies was a transfer from Rutgers that never got time, and I can't remember where their other one had played, but their other goalie actually, I believe, started at the D1 level, maybe at St. John's or something to that effect. So they have a couple of guys that can play, and they have a ton of freshmen, and sometimes some of these late recruit freshmen end up finding a couple of gems in there somewhere. So Utah's going to be a tough call, but I believe you're going to see a 7, 8, 9 goal lead come the third quarter, and then you're going to see Utah start to put some points up on maybe some of Vermont's younger guys. So I'm calling a 7-goal spread by the end of the game, but I think that Utah's going to be able to keep it semi-respectable, and I think they're going to put up a pretty good showing. In the end, either way, I am crazy excited at the prospect of having another Division I program start up here, especially at a school like Utah. We need more teams out west, so this is nothing but good for lacrosse, no matter how they do this season. Vermont, again, I love watching America East ball. I usually get a chance to see Vermont every couple of years. I'll end up watching a Vermont game over at Binghamton University. I'm in Binghamton, in case anybody wondered here. I'm actually in Vestal, right down the road from Binghamton University. So it's going to be a hell of a game. I am stupid excited that lacrosse is back, and I hope you guys all watch it with me. 6 o'clock Friday. Link to the stream is in the description, and best of luck to everybody. We're out.